Welcome back to the Data Protection Diaries, welcome back to the vlog. In today's video we are talking about whether or not you should be a specialist and you should specialise in a particular topic, or whether or not you should benefit from being a generalist. So somebody that looks at lots of different topics, but generally from a kind of relatable standpoint. If you are new to the channel, then thank you very much for joining us. Please do make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Obviously like, comment down below if you have anything to add to the conversation. If you're not new to the channel, thank you for coming back. Please do make sure that you are subscribing. You can do that right now by clicking in the logo in the bottom right hand corner. I would very much appreciate it. And of course, if you find this video useful, if you like this content, like, comment, all of those wonderful things. But for now, let's get on with what we want to talk about. So a question that I am getting asked more and more, possibly as a result of the proposals from DCMS to change the kind of landscape of data protection here in the UK, is should I no longer be specialising in data protection or looking to be a data protection officer, and should I be looking to operate more generally and have a much broader understanding of information security, records management and information governance in the main. There are, of course, as always, two different sides to this particular topic. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to start with the specialist kind of area, then we're going to talk about the generalist area, and then I'll give you my viewpoint on what I think is the best approach for people to take. So the first thing to remember is that when we're talking about specialising, when we are talking about being a specialist in this particular area, generally people are talking about being a data protection specialist. So concentrating on either UK or European data protection law and the kind of laws that hang off that, things like the Privacy and Electronic Communications regulations, and for those who get really deep into it, an understanding of the European Human Rights Act. There is a difference at this point between being a practitioner and being a lawyer or being a solicitor. Very often a lawyer or a solicitor will at some point during their training start to pick a subject that they wish to formally specialise in, and that may well be data protection or privacy. For the purposes of this video, we are talking about practitioners, so people in-house, consultants, people delivering services outside of the kind of law profession. Ordinarily, what would happen in this kind of role is that somebody takes an interest in data protection, or they have an interest in information governance, and they then start to carry it on down that path. So maybe you're working at the minute as a data protection assistant, maybe you're operating as a data protection manager, maybe you're already an established data protection officer, but you've generally been specialising in data protection. Now, that is not a bad place to be. Most of the people that I know, and certainly most of the career DPOs, and coming back to the guys that have, and ladies that have been doing this for sort of 15, 20 years, most of those people are now specialising in data protection and have made a very, very good career out of it. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having a deep understanding of the law and a deep understanding of the regulation. And indeed, if your goal is to be a DPO, then you do need to make sure that you have that specialist understanding, and you need to make sure that you have a clear and detailed understanding of the law. For many people working in this kind of industry, even if you're working as a data protection specialist, you will have oversight of information governance and records management. So you will understand where these things are coming from when you're trying to give advice from a data protection perspective. And that is very, very important for anybody giving data protection advice, because there are always going to be other laws, competing regulations that you need to consider when you're giving your advice. Carving out a career as a data protection specialist is, as I say, a very, very good place to be, and it will offer you a lot of opportunities. The question that's coming out at the minute is because here in the UK we're looking at potentially changing the data protection landscape and changing the way the law currently operates. There is the potential that we may remove the need for the DPO, and that may be replaced with something called a responsible person. So somebody with less a specialist knowledge of data protection, but somebody that can oversee a framework and a kind of governance structure for a company. This is where the question around should I be looking to be more general is generally starting to come from. So what the regulation or the proposed changes to the regulation are talking about is creating a kind of framework approach. Now, framework approaches are very commonplace. So you have many of the international standards, so 27001, 9001. Information governance tends to take a framework approach whereby you're not necessarily controlled or dictated to by a regulation by having to do these certain things, and you're allowed to create a framework which allows you to achieve the same end goal, but by permitting the organisation to do things in their own particular way and do things that suits their risk appetite, suits their kind of operational practices. Now, when you look at that as an outside, so you look at that away from specialising in data protection, you will start to see elements of information security, elements of cyber security, elements of records management, elements of information governance, and elements of lots of other things. This is where it can be very, very helpful to start having much broader general knowledge of the kind of frameworks that surround and support data protection. It is not easy to get a general understanding of a lot of things. As my mum would say, you can end up being a jack of all trades and a master of none. And this also brings its own kind of challenges, but that will vary depending on the kind of role that you're in and depending on the kind of organisation that you're in. From my perspective, I always specialised in information governance and latterly data protection, but I've always had a very broad understanding of other frameworks and standards. So I did a lot of work with 27001, I worked a lot with the NHS and things like the Data Security and Protection Toolkit, putting N3 connections into third-party providers long time ago. But I had a general understanding of frameworks and standards that surrounded data protection. And over the last 10 to 12 years, I've built up that general understanding. So I would now say that while I am a data protection practitioner, I am also very much a generalist. I can turn my hand to developing frameworks. I can turn my hand to supporting other types of standards and other types of regulation. Now, of course, that has its own benefits out in the job market. It means that you are potentially more usable. If you are in a small business, for instance, they may not need a specific data protection focused person, but they may need somebody with broader compliance knowledge who can understand lots of different things and can help them do more. You may want to move into a consulting role, like what we do here at iStorm, so you can actually support clients with a number of different things. The question of whether to specialise or whether to be a generalist really does depend on the kind of path that you want to take. My advice, and certainly my approach, has always been to pick something first, find something that you want to know about and find something that you are passionate about, and be that data protection. Understand it, work with it, learn it, operationalize it, get to grips with it, really take it on board, and once you've done that, you will then start to see the natural progression of the frameworks and the standards and the other laws that surround it. And then once you've mastered your craft, you can start to look at those more general frameworks and topics and start to build your more general knowledge. My advice, certainly my chosen route, was always to specialise in something, to focus on a particular topic and then look at what surrounds it later. The important thing here to remember is that we are talking about career paths. We're not talking about the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. We're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years down the line. If this is what you want to do as a career, then I highly recommend focusing, specialising in one area first, and then developing the knowledge and developing that skills as your career goes on. You will struggle to learn everything about everything. It is not possible. There are obviously people that can, but generally speaking, it is very difficult to learn everything about everything, and you will start to miss things. Whatever you choose to do and however you want to approach this, make sure that you're doing something that you're passionate about, make sure you're doing something that you care about and you have an interest in, and if you take that approach, as I say, you will find information around it that then feeds into it and will pique your interest even more, and you'll always be in a good place in the future career market. As always, this is a fairly succinct view of the world, and it is just my opinion. Lots of other people are going to have lots of other different views. Please do drop your comments down below. Are you a generalist? Are you a specialist? Are you looking to start your career? Have you been in the industry a long time? How have you found it? It would be great to get a conversation going around this. Of course, if you have any questions, again, please do drop those down below. Whatever else you do, please do like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon.